Ethan stood at the edge of the battlefield, his heart pounding as he watched the alien army advance. The sky above was dark with enormous ships, their engines glowing like stars fallen too close to the planet. Below, the alien soldiers moved with frightening precision, their armor gleaming and their weapons bristling. Most humans would have trembled at such a sight, but Ethan did not. He had faced danger before. He had faced impossible odds, and now humanity's fate rested on his shoulders. The battle had started hours ago. Ethan's squad had been sent to hold a critical pass, a narrow canyon that was humanity's last line of defense on this distant colony world. If the aliens broke through, the entire settlement would fall. He looked at his team, a small group of humans, tired, scratched, and bleeding, but determined. They had trained for years for this moment. They had been told the aliens were unbeatable, that no human could survive them. Yet here they were, positions, Ethan shouted, his voice cutting through the roar of engines and the clashing of energy weapons. His squad scattered into defensive spots using the rocky terrain for cover. Ethan raised his weapon, a plasma rifle designed for rapid fire, and took a deep breath. He had studied the enemy. He knew their strengths, and he knew their weakness. They relied on coordination and sheer numbers, but they could be outsmarted. The aliens advanced in tight formations, their movements almost mechanical. Ethan fired a calculated shot, hitting a hovering scout that signaled the rest of the force. The scout exploded, and Ethan's team surged forward using the chaos to set traps. Mines buried in the ground, energy nets hidden in the rocks, each one slowed the enemy. The aliens were strong, but humans were clever. Hours passed in a blur of explosions, shouting, and laser fire. Ethan moved among his team, giving instructions, shielding weaker soldiers and taking risks only he could manage. He noticed the aliens adapting, adjusting their strategies. But Ethan had expected that. He led a small flanking maneuver, slipping around the enemy's left side where the rocks formed a natural tunnel. From there, he struck at their supply lines, cutting off reinforcements. By the time the sun began to rise, the battlefield was a mess of smoke, fire, and shattered machinery. The alien army had been forced to retreat, stunned by the unexpected human tactics. Ethan's team cheered, exhausted but alive. They had done what no one believed possible. Humans had won. After the battle, the alien leaders approached Ethan. Their towering forms were intimidating, but they carried no weapons in their hands, only curiosity and a strange form of respect. They had never seen a human fight like this. They had never seen a human survive so many impossible situations. "You have proven remarkable," one of them said, their voice deep and resonant. "No human has ever earned a reward for defeating us. You may choose one." Ethan blinked. A reward? After the fighting, after the blood and exhaustion, they were offering him a choice. He glanced at the three women standing before him. The first was a tall warrior, her armor shining like liquid metal. She held a weapon that looked capable of tearing through a small building. Her eyes were fierce, and her stance showed years of combat experience. Most humans would have chosen her, he thought. She could protect him. The second was a diplomat, graceful and intelligent-looking. Her calm expression hinted at wisdom and influence. Choosing her might give him advantages in navigating the alien world's politics. Most humans would have considered her useful, a key to future alliances. The third was a quiet, frail-looking woman. She wore simple clothing, her eyes soft, almost afraid. Her hair fell loosely around her shoulders, and she seemed smaller than the others. Ethan studied her, thinking she looked weak, fragile, and perhaps helpless. Most humans would have ignored her. Ethan surprised himself and everyone else by stepping forward toward the frail woman. "I choose her," he said, his voice steady. Gasps and murmurs spread through the alien crowd. Some of the soldiers looked incredulous. Some of the leaders raised their brows. Even his own team stared, shocked. Why would he choose the weakest woman? They expected him to pick the warrior or the diplomat. Ethan felt their eyes, but he did not waver. He knelt slightly, offering a small bow to the woman he had chosen. She looked up at him, startled, her eyes wide. I don't understand," she whispered. "You don't need to," Ethan said with a small smile. "I'll protect you." The aliens exchanged glances, and then the leaders stepped forward. "Be aware," one said, "she is not as she seems. Choosing her may carry consequences you cannot imagine." Ethan simply nodded. He did not fear consequences. He had faced worse, and he had learned that strength was not always in appearance, it was in courage, in intelligence, in the heart. As the group began their journey back to her home planet, Ethan walked beside her, keeping an eye on the path ahead. The woman, whose name was Lyra, stayed quiet, her hands clasped nervously. Ethan tried to start conversation to ease her tension. "You're not as weak as you look," he said lightly. Lyra blinked. I don't know what you mean." Ethan smiled. "You survived this battle without firing a shot. That takes courage. That takes calm. That counts for something." She said nothing, but her eyes lingered on him, curious. She had not expected humans to be so thoughtful. Most of her kind would have ignored such a gesture. As they traveled through alien landscapes, Ethan noticed that Lyra had small, subtle abilities that others might have missed. She read maps quickly, understood alien symbols, and could anticipate potential dangers. Yet every time he suggested she defend herself or use her knowledge more boldly, she demurred. "You should not waste your energy," she said softly. "Let me follow your lead." Ethan respected her decision. He did not need her to fight. He only needed her to survive, and she seemed to want the same. Still, a small curiosity began to grow inside him. Why would someone who appeared so weak be so capable? The journey was not easy. Bands of hostile aliens attempted ambushes, hoping to reclaim their territory or kidnap the human hero. Ethan's combat skills were tested again and again, but he managed to stay one step ahead. Each time Lyra observed quietly, never interfering, yet her advice often helped him avoid danger. By the end of the first day, they reached a safe alien settlement, a small city carved into cliffs. The inhabitants stared at Ethan with awe, having heard of his deeds. Lyra guided him through the city, introducing him to local customs and helping him understand the complex social hierarchies. Ethan realized that choosing Lyra had been the right decision, not because she was weak, but because she was different. Different in a way that might change everything he knew about humans, aliens, and power. As night fell, they rested in a small chamber offered by the alien leaders. Ethan sat near a window looking at the strange stars above. Lyra sat silently across from him, her hands folded. "You made a strange choice," she said finally, her voice quiet but firm. "I made the choice I felt was right," Ethan replied. "Strength isn't always what you see. Sometimes it's what you can't see." Lyra looked at him intrigued. She had never met a human like this, someone who judged not by appearance but by character. She realized, perhaps for the first time, that humans were unpredictable, and unpredictability could be very powerful. Ethan felt a small sense of hope. He did not know what lay ahead. He did not know the secrets Lyra carried, or the challenges that would come. But he knew one thing. He would face them, and he would do so with courage. As they slept under alien skies, the world seemed vast and dangerous, yet full of possibility. Ethan had chosen the weakest woman, or so it seemed. But already, he began to suspect that she might be the most remarkable ally he had ever encountered. And neither of them yet knew how much that choice would change the fate of the galaxy. The next morning, Ethan and Lyra set out from the cliff city, moving across a barren, rocky plain toward the heart of her home planet. The journey was long and the terrain was harsh. Jagged mountains loomed ahead and the wind carried a dry, metallic scent that made every step feel heavy. Yet Ethan's resolve did not waver. He had survived impossible battles before and he would do it again. Lyra walked beside him, quiet and measured. At first, Ethan assumed she was simply fragile, overwhelmed by the alien world around them. But as they traveled, small details began to catch his attention. She noticed subtle changes in the terrain, warning him of weak ground or hidden crevices. She read alien markings and signs that he would have overlooked. Though she never wielded a weapon, her awareness seemed almost impossible. "Watch your step here," she said softly, pointing to a narrow ridge with sharp rocks. Ethan slowed, grateful for the guidance. "You see this?" he asked, impressed. "Most humans would have fallen or broken an ankle by now." Lyra smiled faintly. "I've spent my life observing. Sometimes that is more important than fighting." Ethan realized she was right. Her apparent weakness was misleading. She relied on intelligence, perception, and subtle influence. Those were strengths he had often underestimated in his own world. As they continued, they came across the ruins of an old settlement, half buried in dust and sand. Broken walls, overturned vehicles, and scorched earth hinted at some violent conflict long ago. Ethan felt a chill run through him. Ambushes could come from anywhere, and this desolate place offered countless hiding spots. "Stay close," he whispered, scanning the shadows. "Something doesn't feel right." Lyra nodded and moved beside him, her eyes sharp. As they advanced, she suddenly raised a hand, stopping him. "There," she said quietly, pointing to a faint shimmer in the sand. Ethan crouched and examined it. A thin, almost invisible energy net lay across the ground, an old trap, probably from a long-forgotten battle. "You saw this?" he asked, amazed. "I noticed the disturbance in the sand," Lyra replied calmly. "It was subtle, but enough to warn someone who was paying attention." Ethan smiled, shaking his head. He had chosen the weakest woman, but her quiet observation had already saved him from potential injury. Perhaps he thought he had underestimated her, not the other way around. As they moved through the ruins, Lyra began to show more of her hidden talents. She deciphered alien symbols etched into walls, explaining which factions had controlled the settlement and why it had fallen. Her knowledge of history and politics was vast, far beyond what Ethan had expected. "You know all this?" he asked, astonished. "It was necessary," she said. "To survive in this world, one must understand more than strength. One must understand people." Ethan nodded slowly. He had always believed that humans relied on courage and ingenuity, but Lyra's intelligence added a new dimension. She was not weak. She was strategic, clever, and patient. Her seeming fragility was a carefully maintained illusion. Later, as they reached the edge of a deep canyon, they encountered their first real danger since leaving the city. A group of alien raiders emerged from the rocks, weapons raised, eyes glinting with hostility. Ethan recognized the type, mercenaries seeking to capture humans for ransom or glory. He immediately moved into a defensive stance. "Stay behind me," he told Lyra, raising his weapon. She did not protest, but stepped slightly forward, her eyes scanning the terrain. She whispered instructions. "The left flank, there's a boulder that could give us cover. The path to the right is shallow. They could use it to surround us." Ethan followed her advice, shifting his position and signaling his approach. They ducked behind the boulder, and Ethan fired a few shots to distract the raiders. Lyra stayed calm, analyzing their movements and whispering subtle directions. Together they managed to outmaneuver the raiders. Using the environment, they forced the aliens into a trap, where Ethan's skill with his weapon gave the final advantage. The attackers fled, confused and beaten. After the skirmish, Ethan looked at Lyra in awe. "You just saved us," he said. She shrugged, a faint smile on her face. "I guided you. You executed. Without your skill, my observations would not have mattered." Ethan realized that strength came in many forms. Her quiet intelligence, patience, and keen perception were just as important as his physical courage and combat skills, perhaps even more so in this world filled with unpredictable dangers. As they camped that night under alien stars, Ethan noticed something else about Lyra. She did not speak much about herself, but when she did, her words carried weight. She asked questions that challenged him, made him think, and forced him to see things from a new perspective. "You don't fight like most humans," she said. "You plan. You think ahead. You are unusual." Ethan laughed softly. "I could say the same about you. You look like someone who couldn't lift a weapon, yet you just helped me defeat a dozen raiders without ever touching a gun." Lyra's expression softened. Sometimes appearances are the greatest deception. Many believe the strongest must be the loudest, the largest, or the most aggressive, but that is not always true. Ethan nodded, feeling a growing respect for her. The woman he had thought weak was quietly revealing her true strength. She was clever, aware, and unafraid to think critically. The next day, their journey continued toward a mountain pass that would lead them closer to Lyra's home. Along the way, they faced natural hazards, sudden rock slides, swift rivers, and hidden crevices, but Lyra's careful observation and guidance helped them avoid danger. "See that ridge?" she said, pointing. "There is a narrow path above it. It looks safe, but it is unstable. We should take the lower route where the rock is firmer." Ethan followed her advice, impressed. "You have a sixth sense for danger," he remarked. "I have had to," she said quietly. For years, survival meant noticing what others overlooked. It was not always easy. By the time they reached the mountain pass, Ethan felt a shift in his perception of Lyra. She was no longer just the frail woman he had chosen on a whim. She was a partner, someone whose intellect and insight could match his courage and experience. They had formed a team without realizing it, each complementing the other's strengths. As they navigated the pass, Lyra suddenly stopped. Her eyes narrowed and she placed a hand on Ethan's arm. Something is coming, she whispered. Ethan tensed, scanning the rocks. He saw nothing at first, then faint movement. A small, agile alien scout observing them from a cliff above. The scout would signal others if they moved carelessly. You see it? Ethan asked. Lyra nodded. Yes, we must move quietly and avoid detection. The scout is fast but predictable if we watch carefully. Following her instructions, they advanced slowly, using the rocks and shadows to remain hidden. Ethan marveled at her composure. She did not panic or hesitate. Her quiet strength guided them safely past the scout without a single alert or alarm. Once they were safe, Ethan exhaled and shook his head. I don't know how you do it, he said, smiling. Lyra looked at him, a faint smile on her lips. Strength is not always shown through power. Sometimes it is patience, observation, and knowing when to act. You have your strength, Ethan, I have mine. Together we can survive anything. Ethan realized she was right. He had thought he was protecting her, but she had protected them both in ways he had not anticipated. The weakest woman he had chosen was quietly proving herself to be one of the most capable allies he had ever known. As the sun set behind the mountains, Ethan felt a new sense of understanding. This journey was not just about reaching her home or surviving alien lands. It was about discovering the hidden strengths in each other, and learning that courage and power could take many forms, some visible, some hidden, and some that could only be revealed when trust was earned. And in that moment, Ethan knew that choosing Lyra was more than a decision of the heart. It was the first step toward a partnership that might change the fate of not just their own lives, but perhaps the future of humanity, and her world as well. The sun had just begun to rise over the jagged peaks of Lyra's homeworld, when Ethan and Lyra reached the outskirts of a sprawling city carved into the cliffs. Smoke rose from chimneys, and alien citizens moved through narrow streets with purpose. It was a place of history, power, and secrets, and Ethan felt a strange mix of awe and tension. Lyra led him through the city, her steps quiet but confident. Every now and then she paused, observing the faces of the people around them. Ethan noticed how citizens bowed slightly when she passed, some whispering greetings. At first, he assumed it was respect for her as a companion of a victorious human soldier. But as they moved deeper into the city, he began to notice subtle differences, nods of reverence that went beyond polite acknowledgement. You're not just any woman, Ethan said quietly as they walked. People treat you differently. Why? Lyra's face remained calm, but her eyes flicked to his with a mix of caution and amusement. Some things are better revealed at the right moment, she said softly. Patience, Ethan, you will understand soon. Ethan frowned but nodded. He had learned to trust her instincts even if he didn't fully understand them. He had also learned that appearances could be misleading. She seemed fragile, yet she had guided them past dangers, saved him multiple times, and demonstrated intelligence and strategic thinking far beyond what he expected. Their path led them to a large plaza in the city center, where a crowd had gathered. The citizens were tense, murmuring to one another, their eyes constantly scanning the sky. Ethan's curiosity grew. Something was about to happen, but he could not guess what. Lyra stopped at the edge of the plaza, her expression serious. She turned to him. Ethan, it is time you know the truth. He looked at her, puzzled. What do you mean? She took a deep breath and straightened her shoulders. I am not what I appear to be. I am not weak. I am the heir to this world. I am its future leader. Ethan froze. The woman he had chosen, the one he assumed was frail and defenseless, was the heir to an entire civilization. His mind raced, trying to process the revelation. You... what? He stammered. You're... royalty. Lyra nodded. Yes, I was disguised to appear weak. To survive, I could not reveal my true identity to strangers, even allies. Many enemies would have tried to capture or eliminate me if they knew who I truly was. Ethan felt a mixture of surprise and admiration. He had chosen her thinking she needed protection, never imagining she had been capable of protecting herself and influencing events from the shadows. Then, the dangers we faced on the way here, your guidance, your warnings, was that part of your plan? He asked, Lyra's lips curved in a faint smile. I did what I had to do, and yet your courage and skills were crucial. You did not know what I truly was, but you treated me with respect, not as a prize or a tool. That mattered to me. Ethan's heart swelled with both pride and disbelief. He had thought he was protecting a weak woman, but in truth, He had been walking alongside a powerful figure, learning her strengths without even realizing it. At that moment, a herald stepped forward from the crowd, bowing low. "Your Highness," he said, his voice respectful but urgent, "we have reports of factions plotting to challenge your claim. They question the choice of a human soldier as your companion. Some see it as a threat." Lyra's eyes hardened and she nodded. "Then we will face them openly. They must see that strength is not measured only by appearance and loyalty is earned through action, not status." Ethan felt a flicker of nervousness. If Lyra's enemies knew he was human and that he had fought their army, would they attack him? Would his presence endanger her? Lyra noticed his hesitation and placed a hand lightly on his arm. "You have been brave, Ethan. You will continue to be by my side, not as a protector only, but as a partner. That is why I chose to reveal the truth now." Ethan nodded, feeling a surge of determination. "Then I stand with you no matter what." The plaza filled with tension as rival factions approached, their leaders stepping forward. They were humans in alien guise, strategists, warriors, and nobles who believed the heir should be unaccompanied by outsiders. Their expressions were sharp, calculating, and full of doubt. Lyra stepped forward, her voice clear and commanding. "I am Lyra, heir to this world, and this human soldier chose to stand with me, not for power, not for reward, but because he respected me. That respect is stronger than fear, stronger than any weapon you wield." A murmur spread through the crowd. Some were shocked, others were skeptical, and a few exchanged nervous glances, realizing that this human had proven himself capable in ways they could not yet understand. One of the rival leaders stepped forward, a tall figure with piercing eyes. "You trust a human over your own people?" he asked, his tone sharp. "Do you not see the danger? Humans are unpredictable. You risk everything by aligning with him." Ethan stepped beside Lyra, raising his chin. "I do not make choices based on appearances or fear. I make them based on courage, loyalty, and action. I chose to protect Lyra because she deserves it. That is my choice, and I will stand by it." The rival leader's eyes narrowed. He had expected fear, hesitation, or submission. Instead, he saw a human soldier, defiant, calm, and unwavering. Ethan's presence alone seemed to challenge their assumptions about human strength. Lyra's voice rose, carrying across the plaza. "You judge strength by size, weaponry, or titles. You underestimate wisdom, courage, and loyalty. Ethan has proven himself in battle, strategy, and character. That is the strength that matters." The crowd fell silent, the weight of her words sinking in. Even the skeptical leaders could not ignore the truth. This human, the one they had considered an outsider, had acted with bravery, intelligence, and honor beyond expectation. Ethan glanced at Lyra, realizing that she had not only revealed her identity, but had also chosen to trust him completely. He felt a surge of pride and determination. He would not fail her, not now, not ever. As the rivals debated among themselves, Lyra turned to Ethan. "There will be challenges ahead," she said softly. "Enemies who do not see value in humans, factions who will test our partnership. But you have shown me that humanity's courage and insight are unmatched. Together we can face anything." Ethan nodded. "I will follow your lead, and you will have my loyalty, my skill, and my courage, always." For a moment the two stood side by side, united in purpose. The plaza, once tense and uncertain, seemed to hold a new energy. Citizens who had doubted the human soldier now looked at him with respect, realizing that strength came in many forms. Later, as the crowd dispersed, Lyra led Ethan to a high terrace overlooking the city. The sun was setting, casting long shadows across the buildings and streets below. Ethan gazed at the view, marveling at the intricate beauty of her world. "You see," Lyra said softly, "power is not always visible. It is quiet, patient, and sometimes hidden behind appearances. You chose me thinking I was weak, yet you have helped me reveal my true strength to the world." "That is remarkable," Ethan smiled. "And you've shown me that appearances can be deceiving. Strength is more than muscle or weapons, it is in intelligence, courage, and loyalty. I've learned that today." Lyra's eyes glimmered in the fading light. "Then perhaps together, we can change how humans and aliens see one another. Perhaps together we can build something new." Ethan felt a sense of hope he had not known before. The weakest woman he had chosen was anything but weak. She was wise, strong, and capable of leading an entire civilization. And now, with her trust and alliance, he felt that no challenge was too great. As night fell over the city, the stars above glimmered like distant fires. Ethan and Lyra stood on the terrace looking out at the world below, knowing that the journey ahead would test them both, but also knowing that together, they were unstoppable. The secret had been revealed, and with it came new responsibilities, new dangers, and new opportunities. But Ethan no longer feared the unknown. He had chosen Lyra, not because she appeared weak, but because he recognized the value of courage, respect, and loyalty, and those qualities, he realized, could overcome any obstacle. For the first time, Ethan understood that in this galaxy, humans were extraordinary, not because of raw strength alone, but because of their heart, mind, and the choices they made, even in the face of the impossible. And the adventure was only beginning. The morning sun bathed the city in gold, highlighting the intricate carvings and soaring towers of Lyra's home world. Ethan and Lyra walked through the bustling streets, the air filled with chatter, the hum of energy vehicles, and the scent of alien spices. Though the city seemed peaceful, Ethan knew that danger and intrigue were never far from her people's world. Lyra led him to a large hall in the heart of the city. The building was immense, its walls engraved with symbols of her civilization's history. Citizens and advisors crowded inside, murmuring anxiously. Today was important. Today, Ethan would see how humans could prove their worth not with brute strength, but with intelligence, courage, and moral character. "You must understand," Lyra whispered as they approached the dais. "Some of the council doubts humans. They see us and they see me, and they fear what they do not understand. But your actions will show them the value of humanity." Ethan nodded, though a flicker of nerves ran through him. He had fought battles before, but politics was a different kind of war, one that required patience, observation, and careful thinking. Yet he felt ready. With Lyra's trust, he could face anything. The council rose as they entered. A mixture of skepticism and curiosity filled the room. Some of the advisors' eyes lingered on Ethan, measuring him, wondering if a human could truly be a worthy partner to their heir. Others whispered to one another, their doubt clear. One of the senior council members, a tall alien with silver hair and piercing blue eyes, stepped forward. "Lyra," he said, voice stern, "you have returned with a human soldier. We understand he aided you, but can a human truly be trusted in our world? They are unpredictable." Ethan straightened, his mind sharp. "I understand your concern," he said, voice steady. "I am human, yes. But humans are not weak or reckless. We act with courage, reason, and loyalty. I chose to stand with Lyra because she deserves it. Not for reward, not for power, but because I respect her. And I will continue to act with that respect in mind, for her and her people." The council murmured again, impressed by his composure. Many of them had expected fear, hesitation, or arrogance. Instead, they saw clarity, honesty, and confidence. Ethan's words carried weight, not because he was a human, but because he spoke with conviction. The council challenged him further, presenting a series of scenarios designed to test his judgment. He was asked how he would resolve disputes between rival factions, how he would protect Lyra from unseen threats, and how he would navigate alien laws and customs. Each question required more than strength. It required thinking, creativity, and empathy. Ethan listened carefully, analyzing each problem. He used logic, experience, and intuition, offering solutions that surprised even the most skeptical council members. Sometimes he relied on human ways of problem-solving, which differed from alien traditions, and the results were effective. Lyra observed silently, pride shining in her eyes. She could see the council's attitudes beginning to shift. Ethan's answers demonstrated that humans were not simply warriors. They were thinkers, planners, and capable of understanding worlds beyond their own. One of the younger advisors challenged him directly. "You speak of respect and loyalty, but humans are flawed. How do we know your choices will not endanger our people?" Ethan met the advisor's gaze without hesitation. "All humans make mistakes," he admitted. "But we also learn from them. We take responsibility. We do not run from danger, and we do not abandon those we care for. That is why I stand with Lyra, not because it is safe, but because it is right. My actions will always honor that choice." A silence fell over the room. Some advisors nodded quietly. Others leaned forward, considering the words carefully. Ethan had shown that human strength was not in weapons or size. It was in courage, integrity, and the willingness to act for what is right. The council then presented a more immediate test. Reports had come in of a rebellion forming in a distant sector, one that threatened to destabilize Lyra's claim. Ethan and Lyra would need to act quickly to prevent bloodshed. "We must move," Lyra said, her voice steady. "Ethan, your choices will be important. This is not just about fighting. It is about strategy, diplomacy, and understanding the people involved." Ethan nodded. He felt the weight of responsibility, but he also felt confidence. He had fought countless battles, but this one required a different kind of skill, and he trusted Lyra to guide him. They traveled to the sector in question, moving through winding roads and crowded settlements. The rebellion's leaders had gathered support, unaware that Lyra and Ethan were approaching. Ethan observed the people, noting their concerns, their fears, and their motivations. Unlike alien soldiers who relied solely on intimidation, he looked for understanding. "Most of these people feel ignored," he said quietly to Lyra. "They aren't evil. They're frustrated and desperate. If we show them a better path, they may follow without fighting." Lyra nodded, impressed. "You see what others overlook. That is why humans are remarkable." Ethan and Lyra approached the leaders of the rebellion unarmed but firm. Ethan spoke first, explaining the situation and offering solutions that respected both sides. He emphasized fairness, compromise, and the importance of working together rather than against one another. The rebellion's leaders were skeptical at first, but Ethan's honesty and calm demeanor made an impression. He did not threaten, he did not boast, and he did not manipulate. He simply presented a logical path forward that would benefit everyone. Lyra added her influence, offering the authority of her position and her commitment to a peaceful resolution. Together they were a team. Ethan's human perspective and Lyra's authority created a combination that no faction could easily oppose. By the end of the day, the rebellion had agreed to stand down. The leaders promised to work with Lyra, recognizing her as a fair and capable ruler. Ethan's role was praised, and for the first time many citizens openly acknowledged the value of humans. As they returned to the city, Lyra spoke softly. "You have done more than I expected. Not through strength or weapons, but through understanding, logic, and courage. You have proven that humans are not to be underestimated." Ethan smiled, feeling a sense of pride and accomplishment. He had chosen the weakest woman on a whim, but now he understood that her hidden strengths complemented his own. Together they were capable of great things neither could accomplish alone. Back in the city, the council formally acknowledged Ethan's role. They praised his judgment, courage, and moral integrity. Skeptical advisors now regarded him with respect. Some even admitted they had underestimated humans. Lyra approached him privately after the meeting. "You have done more than survive, Ethan," she said quietly. "You have helped me show my people that strength can take many forms. You have earned their trust and mine." Ethan felt a warmth in his chest. "I only acted as I believe humans should: courage, respect, and loyalty. And I trust you, Lyra." That made all the difference. Lyra's eyes glimmered. It always does. Strength without trust is meaningless. Today you have shown both. Together, we are stronger than any army, any faction, or any threat that may come. That night they walked through the quiet city streets. Citizens lingered at windows, watching them with newfound admiration. Ethan realized that humans, though small in number, could inspire confidence and change even the most complex societies. "You know," Ethan said as they walked, "I never expected to prove humanity this way. I thought my strength was in fighting, but it turns out it's in thinking, observing, and choosing the right path." Lyra smiled. "That is why humans are remarkable. You never stop surprising those who underestimate you, and that is why I chose you. Not for strength alone, but for courage, loyalty, and insight." Ethan felt a surge of pride. He had chosen Lyra thinking she was weak, but she had revealed her true strength: intelligence, strategy, and leadership. And now, together, they had proven that humans could stand as equals in a galaxy of powerful alien civilizations. As they reached the terrace overlooking the city, Ethan and Lyra paused. The sun dipped below the horizon, casting the world in golden light. The streets below were calm, the citizens hopeful, and the future seemed full of possibility. Ethan realized that strength was not always visible. It was courage, integrity, and the ability to act wisely in the face of danger. And in the company of Lyra, he knew that humans could achieve greatness in ways no one had imagined. The journey was far from over, Challenges would come and dangers would test them again. But Ethan and Lyra now understood that together, human courage and alien wisdom could overcome almost anything. And with that understanding, they prepared for the battles yet to come, not just with weapons, but with insight, loyalty, and determination. The city was quiet in the early morning, bathed in pale light. Ethan and Lyra stood on the terrace overlooking the central plaza, their eyes scanning the horizon. The calm was deceptive. They both knew that true challenges often came when the world seemed most peaceful. Reports had reached them of a coalition of rival factions forming outside the city. These factions did not trust humans, nor did they respect Lyra's claim. They believed the human soldier's presence weakened her, that his influence would cause chaos. Ethan, however, understood that true strength was more than appearances. It was courage, judgment, and the ability to act wisely under pressure. Lyra turned to him, her expression serious. "Ethan, today will test everything, not just my authority, but your ability to represent humanity in ways others might not expect." Ethan nodded. "I am ready. Whatever comes, I stand with you." The two of them descended from the terrace and entered the council chamber. Advisors and citizens filled the room, their faces a mix of hope and concern. Ethan felt the weight of expectation pressing down on him, but he remained calm. He had faced worse: battlefields, alien traps, and treacherous terrain. This was different, but he was prepared. The doors opened and representatives of the rival factions entered. They were armed, not just with weapons, but with arrogance and doubt. Their eyes scanned the room, lingering on Ethan, as if measuring his worth. He met their gaze without hesitation, standing firm beside Lyra. "You rely on a human to lead alongside you?" one of the leaders demanded. His voice was sharp, laced with disbelief. "How can we trust him? Humans are unpredictable and weak compared to the standards of this world." Ethan stepped forward, his voice steady and clear. "I may be human, but that does not mean I am weak. My strength lies in courage, in judgment, and in loyalty. I chose to stand with Lyra not for reward or glory, but because it was right. I act with integrity, and I will continue to act in ways that protect her people and your people alike," the council murmured. Some skeptical leaders exchanged uneasy glances. Ethan's words carried authority because they were honest, grounded in experience and devoid of arrogance. He had proven himself before, and now he was showing that humans could contribute in ways others could not even imagine. Lyra's voice followed, commanding the attention of everyone present. "These factions fear what they do not understand. Strength is not always visible in size or weaponry. Courage, wisdom, and loyalty are equally powerful. Ethan has shown me and you that humans possess these qualities. That is why I trust him." The factions challenged them with a series of tests, complex scenarios designed to measure strategy, leadership, and decision-making. Ethan and Lyra worked together seamlessly. Ethan offered human insight, thinking in ways the aliens had never considered. Lyra provided authority, knowledge, and experience with the customs of her world. In one scenario, the factions proposed a simulated attack on a key settlement. The plan was intricate, and failure could have been disastrous. Ethan quickly analyzed the terrain, the likely paths of attackers, and possible mistakes. He suggested adjustments that neutralized potential threats while minimizing risk to civilians. Lyra executed the plan, coordinating defenses and reallocating resources efficiently. Together, their combined strategy succeeded flawlessly. The factions were forced to acknowledge their effectiveness, their skepticism giving way to respect. After the tests, Ethan was asked to speak directly to the citizens. Standing before them, he spoke plainly without pretense. "Humans are not perfect," he said. "We make mistakes, but we learn. We act with courage and loyalty. We value honor and fairness. I chose to stand with Lyra because she embodies these same values. Together we can face challenges, protect your people, and build a better future. That is the strength humans bring. Not weapons, not size, but heart and mind." The citizens listened in silence, and then a ripple of approval spread through the room. Some nodded, others whispered affirmations, and the factions who had doubted them looked thoughtful. Ethan had done more than speak. He had inspired. Suddenly, alarms rang throughout the city. Reports came of a faction attempting a surprise attack outside the walls. Ethan and Lyra acted immediately. Ethan's experience on battlefields became invaluable. He coordinated defensive teams, anticipated the enemy's moves, and organized countermeasures that minimized casualties. Lyra led her people alongside him, rallying soldiers and guiding civilians to safety. Together, they formed a force that was both efficient and unstoppable. The attackers, confident in their strength, were quickly outmaneuvered. Using intelligence, strategy, and the courage of both humans and aliens, they were defeated without a single unnecessary loss. As the dust settled, Ethan surveyed the battlefield. The victory was not just physical, it was symbolic. Humans had proven that their courage, judgment, and loyalty could stand alongside the strongest alien warriors. Lyra approached him, her expression filled with pride and gratitude. "You have done it, Ethan," she said softly. "You have shown our people that humans are extraordinary, not in ways they expected, but in ways that truly matter. You have changed how they see humanity." Ethan shook his head humbly. "I only acted as I believe humans should. Courage, respect, and understanding. You gave me the chance to stand with you. That made all the difference." Lyra smiled, her eyes glimmering. "And together we have shown that strength is more than appearances. Courage, intelligence, and loyalty can overcome fear, prejudice, and even great danger." The city celebrated their victory that night. Citizens gathered in the plazas, praising the alliance between Lyra and Ethan. Banners fluttered in the wind and music filled the streets. For the first time, humans were truly recognized as worthy partners in the galaxy. Ethan and Lyra stood together on the terrace overlooking the city, the lights below sparkling like stars. The journey had been long, dangerous, and filled with surprises. They had faced threats from both enemies and the unknown, yet they had emerged stronger. Together. Lyra turned to him, her expression soft. "You chose me thinking I was weak. But in truth, it was you who helped reveal both my strength and yours. That is why I trust you and why I stand with you." Ethan felt a warmth in his chest. "I chose you because I saw courage, intelligence, and heart. And I've learned that true strength isn't always obvious. It is in loyalty, wisdom, and the choices we make." Lyra's eyes shone in the moonlight. "Then perhaps together we can teach the galaxy a new way to see humans. Not as outsiders, but as equals. Not as weak, but as strong in ways that truly matter." Ethan nodded, feeling a sense of pride and hope he had never experienced before. He had chosen the weakest woman, but she had proven to be one of the most capable leaders in the galaxy. Together, they had shown that humanity's true power lay not in muscle, but in courage, intelligence, and integrity. As they watched the city celebrate below, Ethan realized that this was only the beginning. Challenges would come again, for both humans and aliens. But with Lyra by his side, he knew that they could face anything. Strength was not measured by appearance or weaponry. It was measured by heart, mind, and the courage to do what was right. In that moment, Ethan understood that humans were extraordinary, not because they were the strongest physically, but because they had the capacity to stand for what is right, even in the face of the impossible. And with Lyra, he had found a partner whose strength matched his in every way. The galaxy had seen the human soldier choose wisely, and in doing so, humanity had earned its place among the stars. And for Ethan and Lyra, the journey continued, side by side, stronger together, ready to face any challenge that the universe might bring. The night sky stretched endlessly above, full of stars and possibilities. Ethan and Lyra stood together, knowing that their bond, built on trust, courage, and understanding, would guide them through whatever the future held. Humanity's worth had been proven, and the galaxy would never forget it.